with the Iranian government. Like, it's a fact. The U.S. did 100% intervene with the Iranian government throwing out the Shah. It's true, but most people get the details wrong. So here's the actual details. It was 1953, and the Shah was in charge with a constitutional monarchy, which means that there was some freedom for the people. They got to pick who they wanted in parliament. Then parliament would vote for the president, but that's okay. So the takeaway here, though, is that the people, Mossadegh, and Mossadegh came in with this idea of like, hey, let's nationalize Iranian oil. And the reason that's important is because Iran was getting 14% people had elected. That's it. Country. So, hey, Arctic. So basically what ended up happening was Mossadegh rise to power, and he was like, we got to get rid of the BP government. Well, what BP oil? And what happens? BP goes to their government and goes, wait, hey guys, we're going to be losing all this oil. So MI6 gets involved from the British, and then knocks on US's door and is like, hey US, this Mohammed Mossadegh guy, he's trying to nationalize Iranian oil. Doesn't that sound like communism? Doesn't that sound like communism? And look at China, look at Russia. So what happens? The US is like, okay, we agree. So here's their play. They have a young Shah in place. So young Shah is kind of still new to this and is realizing that it's Mohammed Mossadegh. So MI6 and CIA meet with Shah and they say, hey Shah, you're losing control. Let's get Mossadegh out. And he's like, okay. So they say, okay, listen, we're the CIA and MI6. Here's all you have to do. It's simple. You're going to sign a royal decree essentially replacing Mossadegh, okay? And once you sign that decree, we're going to go to Mossadegh's house. You're going to send police, and you're going to say, knock, 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 Mossadegh, who are you? And he'll be like, I'm Mossadegh, I'm the prime minister. And then they're going to arrest him for being an imposter. That's the plan of the MI6 and CIA. It's really that simple. So young Shah signs. This is Operation Ajax 1953. This is what the U.S. did to intervene with Iran. This is fact. So they sign this royal decree, and Mossadegh gets replaced. The police go to knock on Mossadegh's door essentially to say, hey, who are you, and to set him up. Except someone snitched. And Mossadegh is there waiting with police of his own. And they go and arrest the police who are supposed to be arresting him. That's fact. That's what the U.S. did. Without question, they did intervene. Now it gets a little bit more interesting. And it gets more interesting because they don't quit. After this, they're like scratching their head. They're saying, okay, hold on a second. We failed. Right? This whole thing failed. But we're going to, communism and oil, okay, here's what we'll do. We're going to make the streets look chaotic. So the U.S. and the MI6 hire protesters to protest for the Shah and protest against the Shah to try to make the streets look crazy. Now, as soon as this operation failed, the first attempt from the CIA, Shah had left. He was like, oh my gosh, this is in trouble. Treason, this is not good. So Shah had left, and Mossadegh is in control. So the CIA and MI6 hired these protesters to make the streets look crazy. They're trying to show, like, hey, hey, Iranian people, it wasn't like this with the Shah. And so they start protesting and propaganda spread, and long and short, chaos instills. 3 days later, the guy that Mossadegh was replaced by comes rolling in on tanks with a little piece of paper that says, I am here by the royal orders of Shah, and he is the rightful leader of it. And the takeaway here is that the U.S. and MI6 without question did intervene. But the Shah was in power prior to them intervening. They made a mistake taking the Shah out of power, and then they used their power to put the Shah back in. So at the end of the day, it was a net neutral. So a big, huge, messy misconstrue is that the U.S. took out the democratically selected president. No, that's not true. The U.S. took out the Shah by making a bad mistake, and then they're like, shoot, let's put him back in. That's what happened. 1979 did not have much at all to do with the U.S. That was Iran's own doing. I was going to title today being Iranians are the most unlucky people, just because of what had happened after time with their government. 79 didn't have anything to do with the U.S., aside from the fact that the U.S. intervened in 1953, which kind of pissed the people off, right? But by the time 1979 came around, which was the big revolution for the Ayatollahs and crew, by the time 1979 came around, the people of Iran had already understood that the U.S. had put Mossadegh in and taken him out, and they were kind of pissed. They're like, hey, Shah isn't even our leader. We didn't even want him. You guys put him in. So when the Ayatollah came in, he came in with this whole thought that, like, listen, we need to be democratic. We need to stop being a puppet of the U.S. It's our time. Could you guys do me a favor in the chat? Give me a 1 if you've already heard this story. Give me a 1 if you heard the 1979. I don't want to bore you guys, but I'm going to keep going until then. So basically, the 79 situation is like a prime target of just a series of unfortunate events. The Shah had high inflation rate, right? And it was about 48%. On top of that, there was really high corruption. So the people are not really dealing good with the government from the sake of they're not able to talk freely. They're getting high taxes, and the Shah is spending a lot of money. He's partying like you wouldn't believe. There were reports that in the 1970s he spent $120 million on a single party. $120 million on a single party. That's incredible. So the issue is, if you go 8 miles south of North Tehran, it's a very poor area. So you have all these rich people up top partying, and then you have these poor people down below. And so the people were pissed that they're paying these high taxes, and they're not getting anything except seeing the Shah throw parties. Now, at the same time, the Shah did a lot of good for the society. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but what I do want to try to say is what had happened was that the Ayatollahs came in and said, listen, why are we paying taxes? We're rich. We need to be democratic, for sure. Shah is making us do all these Western things. He's like a puppet. Let's be our own nation, and let's not lose our culture. People are like, okay. On top of that, school, blah, blah, blah. So they make all of these fake commitments. They said, well, Iranian people are losing their morals. We should have a group of people who are morally making sure that the government is aligned with what we're doing. And so they sell this fake narrative that the Iranian people buy. And I would argue that maybe the Iranian people wouldn't have bought it if the U.S. didn't intervene in 1953, but the U.S. didn't have anything to do with these Ayatollahs rising. So the U.S. gets a really bad rep for what's happening with them, but they didn't have anything to do with putting these Ayatollahs in place. I think that's super important to understand. Now, why are we in this position with the ceasefire, with all that? It gets ugly, and it gets ugly really quick. Basically, in 1980, once the Ayatollahs really took place, they implemented the IRGC. They're like, okay, we have a national military. They take care of the people. But we need a military that's actually going to take care of our regime. Now that we have power, we don't want to lose it. Hence, the birth of the IRGC. This is not an old thing. This is relatively new. And in fact, the Ayatollah came in with this concept of we need to have a 20 million man army. And when they were trying to overthrow the Shah, he was essentially calling people his soldiers and saying, like, you are part of this movement. You know, like how they have people who are, they call themselves MAGA, or they call it whatever, right? It was like that. It's like, yeah, I'm part of this. Those people were referred to as Basijis later on. What I'm getting at is that as soon as the government got into power, they realized that we have to do something so that we don't lose it. Hence the birth of the IRGC, which now has 150 to 200,000 members, and the birth of Basiji, which has 200,000 active members, up to 600,000 members who are available on reserves. And those people are a branch underneath the IRGC who are just volunteers. So they have a very, very strong grasp on the culture, a grasp on the people too. And these people are embedded within society, especially the Basiji. Again, they're the volunteer IRGC. They are embedded in your universities. They're embedded in your schools. If you go to one of the public high school, one of the public colleges or high schools, you're going to have a Basiji group there. They're going to have Basiji groups within the professors to make sure that the words don't come down to the people and to the students that are not acceptable for the government. It is embedded in society to make sure it's not overthrown. Jimmy Carter did not help that much, Farbod. Jimmy Carter was a fan of the Shah. Jimmy Carter started reaching out to Khomeini when he thought he was going to lose it. And I could argue that Jimmy Carter told Shah to stop being so hard on the people, where he lightened it. And by lightening the aggression he had towards the people, which was minimal, by lightening the aggression he had towards the people, allowed Khomeini to rise up into power. But that's what it is. 1953, 100% U.S. had to deal with, without question. Beforehand, not necessarily the case. All right, let's see what's... Hi, Earl. Hello?
What's up?
Hi. How can I help you? What's going on?
Ah, crap. What's up, man? I just scrolling on my For You page, and you just happened to pop up.
Sure. So you requested up. Is it something you want to talk about?
I mean, sure, yeah. What's the topic?
All right, I'm going to bring you down. You can request up when you're ready. All right. So, going back to it, sorry, Earl, I didn't mean to be rude, but we have a couple hundred people in the room. So, the big takeaway here is that the U.S. did intervene. I want to be very clear, but not in 79 like they're getting the rest. They intervened in 53, and the 53 had domino effects to it, right? So now how do we end up in this ceasefire situation? Why are the people of Iran literally not upset? Well, I mean, they're not happy. Why are the people of Iran okay with the fact that their government is being attacked by Israel and by the U.S.? It's because their government started lying to them before they even got into power. One of the biggest stories, one of the biggest teeter-totter points, if you said, Alex, name one of the biggest movements that caused the people to start supporting the Ayatollah, was a movie theater incident. It was like August 15, 1977, something in that ballpark. And basically what happened is there were people in a movie theater, and the tensions were high with the Shah. There's people in a movie theater, and the movie theater, someone's locked it from the outside and set the place on fire, and 470 people were unalived. And propaganda started spreading immediately that it was the Shah doing it to try to oppress the people, like to try to just get them to stop trying to hate him. Literally, that's what they did. Now it's clear as day that the people who did that were the current Ayatollahs, and there's documentation now to prove that. But what I'm getting at is the Ayatollahs got into power by lying from the beginning and by forcing their way. That was a huge pivotal moment. Think about that. If the government went to a movie theater, locked the door and did that, then you'd start hating the government, right? Now, what happens if the government didn't do it? It was a setup. These things are happening 50 years ago. Yes, they deliberately eliminated humans, a leader purging their detractors. It's a crazy time. This guy is biased. Take it with a grain of salt. Come and talk to me. Today's a light day. Come and talk to me. I'm going to invite you. I would like, hope you don't. See, here's the issue. People like to come up, in Persian we call it certo pers. You like to talk, but come talk to me then. Come talk to me. If you disagree, then we're fine. Let's talk. But anyway, okay, let's talk about the ceasefire for a second. The ceasefire is very interesting, and if you were on the lives before, I was saying one of the reasons for the ceasefire is when you put in a huge ultimatum like, hey, we're going to hit your power plants, then you start protecting things that are important to you. You start moving the limited resources you have from a government perspective, right? So without question, Iran was moving a lot of their big assets and hiding them and etc. And Pete Hegseth today said, hey, for the record, when you guys moved all of that stuff, we saw you. We now know where it's at. That's cute. Our intelligence level is higher than it's ever been. So that was a prediction that someone had said, and that clearly is true. On top of that, they also said that we are now reloaded. We have more people in than we did before. We're ready to go. Iran is depleted. According to Iran's news, they said the strait is open, just like normal. Just like normal, the strait is open. Ships are passing through like nothing. Donald Trump today multiple times reiterated, and so did Kane. General Kane. I don't want to be rude to him. General Kane, I think. They both said nothing's going through. I'm going to trust the U.S. Navy that nothing's going through, opposed to the Iranian government that doesn't have any Navy ships at this point. So we're in for an interesting time. The propaganda that Iran is making is really, really bad. For those of you who don't know, the internet is blacked out in Iran for the people. The only people who are able to come out and start talking are ones who quite literally apply within the government to be, quote, influencers of the regime. Those are the only people who do it. So you will start seeing more, and I'll tell you why in a second. You will start seeing some more Iranians come out of the woodworks. But what was happening before is those people who would get a permission to go online and to be propaganda people for the government, some of them have been selling their internet connection through a VPN to the regular people of Iran. Historically, the last pricing I got was $36.50 per gigabyte of internet usage to just go through the VPN. I heard fantastic news from my family now that they started loosening it up a little bit, and because of the corruption that they have in Iran, there's now multiple of these, and it's now one of them is offering 18 USD a month for unlimited VPN usage. But she said the regime is so poor at this point because of not only the blockade but what else has happened, that she thinks that it's the government just collecting money. At this point, they're like, if we could let the internet open, fine, but let's just give them VPN and charge them an extra $18 a month. Makes sense. Also, I just posted a video on this. This is fact. Like, you can research this. The Iranian government has always been arresting protesters, and it continues to this day. They have CCTV. They're able, if they identify who you are, they'll go and they arrest you. But in addition to arresting you, they started seizing your assets. So they started taking your bank account, taking your money, taking your title of your house, taking it. If they're inside and they see something they take it. That is not something a government does if they're rich. Thank you, Kyle. That is something government does when they're desperate, and they're at that point of desperation. Aside from that, they're still recruiting 12-year-olds. 12-year-olds. Recruiting 12-year-olds. Reza Shah Pahlavi. 12-year-olds. Similar to the propaganda that the Iraqis used when American troops were in Baghdad. Hey, Arctic, thank you. Alex is not paid. No, I'm not paid. The Shah went into exile after the CIA overthrew him. Jackie, come up and talk to me, because that's the CIA. After the CIA overthrew him, the CIA did not overthrow the Shah. The CIA tried to overthrow Mossadegh in '53. So you are not doing propaganda. Palingo. No, everything I'm saying is research. You can research it yourself. And how is it different in the U.S.? Paid gifters spewing lies. J-Dub, I think there's a difference when the U.S. still allows people to murk their voice. At least in the U.S., it's your responsibility, J-Dub, to determine whether I'm speaking the truth or not. When you go on the next person, it's your responsibility. But guess what? You have the opportunity to decide whether what I'm saying is true or not. In Iran, there's only one message. It's the government's message. There's no opposition. There's no news showing two sides of the stories. None. There's only news from the Iranian government. And in fact, the CNN and BBC people who are inside Iran right now, which gives me such high blood pressure, they quite literally, any footage that they record inside has to go through Iranian government before it could be before it could be published. And so you might ask, well, why wouldn't they just sneak stuff out and just tell the truth, which is a logical thing to ask. Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much. The reason is because they know where the people are at all times. They likely have a sponsor or a chaperone, and they need to know, so they need to know where you're at. They need to know how you're going to get from point A to point B, and they have a chaperone. So you have all that stuff, and then you submit your footage that you're not supposed to. You think you're going to make it out of that country? Absolutely not. They are intimidated. So the media in Iran, even the outside media from BBC and etc., you cannot trust even this much. Not even a little. So, thank you, Noah, for watching. Okay. Thank you, Angie. We have distorted Iran yet? I'm not sure what you mean by distorted. Stepan, just explain this to my students today. Spot on. Thank you. Do you like Mossadegh? It's a moot point. Mossadegh was in power for 3 days. The idea of nationalizing Iran's oil was fine. The issue was Iran was getting 14% of the profits. The rest of the Middle East was getting 50-50. And I think the deal, by the time the Shah came back in, was much more in line with that 50-50 deal. So do I like Mossadegh? I don't know all of his politics. I wasn't there in 1953. But what I can tell you from the high-level pieces, the CIA and MI6 did not like him. That's what I can tell you. So, are you Persian? Jackie, yes, I am Persian. I've been to Iran multiple times. I spent 3.5 years there. Thank you, Kaligu. My stepmother, my aunt, cousin, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, both of them are still currently there. And I was fortunate enough to talk with my cousin today. So the VPN usage is becoming a little bit more available. I don't think you are speaking the truth because you're biased. Okay, come up and tell me where you think I'm biased. We can have a civil conversation. Okay, this is too biased. Bye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Will the regime change happen? Mary, the regime, look, something's gonna have to happen, right? The Iranian people are going to be, they're going to be so bad if this regime stays. And a lot of signs right now are looking towards a peace deal, which war is bad. This government is worse. So a lot of signs are going to this peace deal. And if it does end up settling, then I think it's going to be really ugly for the Iranian people. And I think they know that. And so I also think that they know that this is the weakest the IRGC has been. And so they're going to have to take a chance at some point to do something. People are already armed, right? Trump had even admitted that they'd given arms. He claimed that they were abducted or that they didn't make it to its delivery. But a lot of videos, every day I'm seeing more, are showing that these little militias inside of Iran are picking out these IRGC and Basij forces one by one. Also, I think it's important to note that the IRGC has literally hired Iraqi militia groups to come help the suppression of the people. So in the capital of Iran, you now see hung Iraqi flags. The Iranian government didn't put those up. These are the Iraqi militias being like, hey, we're not here to take part, we're here to take over. Pamela, that was for you. Okay, 85 messages behind. Wow. So you are okay with the president-elect in 1953 was arrested? Okay. He wasn't president-elect. He was elected into parliament. The parliament voted him in to become the president, and the Shah approved it. Okay? The U.S. took the Shah, the U.S. gave the Shah a bad plan that put Mossadegh in control, and then they put another plan in to take Mossadegh out and put the Shah back in. So, was I okay with the plan? No, I don't think the U.S. nor the MI6 should have intervened. Absolutely not. Hey, Sigma, thank you. The Dallas Cowboys are going to win the next Super Bowl. I know nothing about football, but if you're from Texas, I'm rooting for you. So you're admitting the riots weren't peaceful? Oh my God, no. By no means. Wait, you're saying the riots that the people did? Thank you, Sigma. The riots that the people did for the most part were peaceful. When you have 3.5 million people on the streets, there's going to be a little bit of chaos and hectic, for sure. And some of the protesters, if I'm calling a spade, were doing some destruction to the IRGC facilities, as they should. But you know what the protesters weren't doing? Using live rounds around the government. You know who was? The government doing it to its own people. That's the difference. Told my kids I remember when it all went down in 1979. It was a bad deal. For sure it was a bad deal. There's no regime change if the people support their government. You're right. You're absolutely right. The good news is the people do not support their government. An overwhelming majority don't. According to the latest data from November of 2025, which was before the massacre had occurred, 92% of people were not happy with their government. That's according to Iranian International. Are the people of Iran glad with what America is doing? Ginger, that's a tough question because I don't think anyone's glad. right? I don't think anyone that is glad that war is happening, but I think the Iranian people are appreciative that the IRGC is being weakened. Hey, Skittle, for sure. There's no regime change if the people support the government. I totally agree. I just answered that. Hey, thank you guys for the follow. Nice. My best friend is Persian too. I hope they are nice people. Nice person, whatever. Advocate of the same Shah that held its people in chains of economic leverage and poverty. Okay, if you ask any reasonable Iranian, would you guys rather have the Shah or the Ayatollahs? An overwhelming majority, at least 92% would say, yeah, give me the Shah back. 92%, I'm just referring to that old article. So if you look at the data of how many unalives the Shah had, it is it's a tenth, it's probably a fifth of what happened this year alone. There were more public ropings last year than there were during the Shah's time, like during his cumulative time. All right, we have Kaveh history. Hey, Kaveh.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, welcome.
I've seen a few of your, not much. I've seen a few of your lives. I appreciate what you're doing. I just wanted to talk a little bit. Do you want Reza Pahlavi back?
So, okay, that's a good question. To answer your question with one word, I'll say yes, but I can explain why if needed.
No, I mean, I'm glad. Yeah, he was the constitutional successor to his dad, and if we want to have any rule of law or semblance of constitutional procedures, then he should be returned. And I think anyone who opposes that is against the rule of law. But you were talking about Mossadegh. I feel like you saw the movie Fargo with Ben Affleck, like that
when it first came out, not a long time before that.
Yeah, that whole narrative. I've been doing a lot of research on this because I was raised being told that Mossadegh was like a nationalist hero of Iran, and he was trying to protect Iran's oil. But the more I've looked into it, the more I've realized that that's a completely false narrative. He was a member of the Qajar royal family, right? That was deposed by Reza Khan. And
you've got mail.
He got into power after Prime Minister Razmara was assassinated by Fayedin-e-Islam. And then Mossadegh pardoned that assassin. Okay. And then when he cut off oil sales to the West, Iran lost 90% of its oil sales, right? And so it threw Iran to an economic crisis. And then he used that crisis to literally claim, by his own words, dictatorial powers, which goes against the Iranian constitution, okay? So when people say that it was a United States, United Kingdom-backed coup, where's the evidence for that, except for what the CIA and the MI6 actually says? It was an Iranian commander who ousted Mossadegh for his unconstitutional behavior. So it was an Iranian movement, and the Shah had the majority support. There was a popular election in 1952 between Mossadegh's party and the Shah's party. The Shah was winning, and Mossadegh canceled the election in the middle of the election. You can go look this up on Wikipedia or anywhere else. This is true, 100%. He was never
But at
elected.
that time, it was a constitutional monarchy, right? The Shah was still had the final say.
But the idea that Mossadegh was this champion of democracy is not true. He never won a democratic election.
No. First of all, you're speaking way more than I've ever dug into Mossadegh, and I'm not doubting you. But I think that the picture here was what I try to explain with this story, because U.S. gets a bad rap, right? And I think some of it in this.
I'm not saying that the U.S. I'm not trying to defend the United States.
No, but I think the takeaway, and I don't mind at all going in these weeds. I think it's interesting. But the takeaway here is that Mossadegh wanted the root of it. Mossadegh wanted to nationalize oil. Is that factually accurate based on what you know?
I don't think that was his actual goal. No.
Then why did he get involved, and why did they complain?
Well, how did he nationalize the oil? He just stopped selling oil. That's not nationalization.
So he screwed. Okay, so you're saying he screwed with BP's oil.
I was saying that he ruined Iran's economy. He didn't nationalize anything. Like, what did he nationalize? Who was he selling it to? Mossadegh, there's a quote from Mossadegh.
Yeah, no, hold on.
Where he says that Iran's oil is just as much Pakistan's
So, Kaveh, hold on. Let me back up because I don't want to take away from the point. There had to be something that happened. There had to be something that happened to get the BP involved. So why did BP get involved?
In what way?
Why did MI6 get involved?
But how did they get involved?
Operation Ajax, 1953.
Okay, what is Operation Ajax? What happened there?
Operation Ajax is when the U.S. First of all, it was the MI6 who did it. MI6
No. What did they actually do materially?
They were the architect of the plan that the Shah had to follow, and then they did the second step too.
Wait, what? The architect of the plan that the Shah had to follow? What are you talking about?
Yes. Why don't you tell me your understanding of Operation Ajax, or would you like me to go first?
There's really not much to it. Kermit Roosevelt had a small budget, and there's no material evidence that he actually did anything to impact the coup. It wasn't a coup. It was a reclaiming of the Iranian government by an Iranian commander. Like, what did they materially do? The only source and evidence that people cite is a CIA document.
I don't know. Hold on. We're just talking here. Listen, I think at the end of the day, we're saying the same thing.
I don't know about that.
Okay. Do you like Pahlavi, or are you an IRGC supporter?
Are you joking? Do you think I support that?
Okay, so
I'm 100% a Pahlavi supporter.
We're on the same.
Okay, no, I know, and I'm not here to come at you. I just want to help clarify this very confused history of Mossadegh.
Okay, so then listen. I don't know Mossadegh's prior to this. I don't know his history, but what I did do thorough research on was this Operation Ajax, and that Operation Ajax, again, if we simplify it, which I think the story part is important, so that we can understand how this led to the people being upset in 1979. I think that's why Operation Ajax is important, because
the simplification is the problem. I'm trying to get your opinion or your perspective on what was materially done by the CIA and MI6 in Operation Ajax.
As I said, they architected the plan, which in the plan, you're familiar with the plan, and for those of you who don't know, I'll just say it. The plan was to have the Shah sign a royal decree replacing Mossadegh with Zahedi. So far, so good?
When did they architect this plan?
That's the CIA and MI6 architect.
Is there a document?
I have a data.
Is it verified by anyone else besides the CIA and MI6?
What more documentation do you need than the CIA?
Well, why? I mean, if you're only believing if your only source for something is the CIA, if your only source for something is the CIA, you're in a lot of trouble, man.
Okay.
Like, if you're going to believe the CIA as the paramount of all truth, I have some bad news for you. So, I mean, I don't know what you actually have to prove that they materially impacted the reclaiming of the Iranian government
August 15th.
by Iranians. What's that?
On August 15th is when this date came into play, right? And that is when the Shah signed the royal decree to replace Mossadegh with Zahedi. Then the intent was to arrest Mossadegh, essentially, they're going to go, you understand the story?
Yeah.
So then what part of that you're saying it didn't happen?
Wait, but that was the Shah that signed the decree. Where is there proof that the CIA made him do that? You're missing a huge part of the story.
What's the huge part of the story?
That Prime Minister Razmarah was assassinated by Fadayan-e-Islam, and then Mossadegh pardoned that assassin. Go look it up.
Okay, but what does that have to do with?
Do you think that that's a democratic process to get a prime minister?
I'm not claiming that Mossadegh was democratically elected anyway.
You know that the Farman decree that the Shah issued is in the Constitution. He had the constitutional right to issue that decree.
I have no idea what we're talking about now. How did we get to this point?
Apparently.
If you're going to be rude, my friend, I'm going to drop you. I'm literally trying to have a conversation.
He issued the Farman decree. He had the power to do that.
Okay. So what?
And you have no proof that the CIA made him do that except for the CIA
I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm trying to understand what you're. I'm literally not.
You're trying to say that the Shah was a puppet of the CIA.
I'm not. I'm saying the Shah was young, and he did do something with cahoots of the CIA and MI6.
But your only source that he was controlled by the CIA is the CIA itself.
Source. It's one of the many. I'll send.
Name another.
Kaveh, do you like?
Name another.
Yeah, let me go, and I don't just come up here and make stuff up. So give me a second. I'll tell you what I tried to get to this point. I sure will. So but I don't know why you're in such an argumentative mood. If you're trying to prove, look, dude, your name is Kaveh History, a Persian name with history. it clearly is a hobby of yours. I am by no means doubting that you are far more experienced in the history of Iran. That's no problem. I'll give you
I'm
that.
just trying to help you, bro.
That's no problem.
I'm
if
trying
you're
to
trying to help me, then don't argue and don't come off as with an attitude. That's fine.
Dude, let's stay focused on the subject instead of the affectations, okay? I'm gonna jump off. Just please research it, please.
Yeah.
There's no proof.
I will
There's no
personally
proof.
email you, or I'll personally message you the 15 things that I read.
I would sincerely appreciate that.
I don't know why this got hostile. We're on the same.
There's no hostility.
Okay.
We're Persian. This is how we talk.
No, this is not how I talk. This is not at all how I talk.
Okay. Well,
This is not.
I'm trying to stick to the subject matter, and you're making it about the emotions behind it. That's fine. Okay, but
What a shame, because clearly he knew a lot of stuff, and I wish we'd be able to work together to see. Okay, here's my research. Here's your research. If I'm missing something, which I very well could be, could we fill in the gaps together to portray what the actual history is? Because it's not easy researching stuff, and clearly you spent a lot of time on it. Great. So then let's build a story. Help me with the missing details, not attack me. Jesus Christ. Holy shit. And Covet, you're clearly a smart guy and know your stuff, but you need to work on your communication skills, buddy. Your history skills are great. Communication skills sucked ass. Oh, that guy wanted to be right no matter what you said. It's okay. I have no problem. I have no problem being wrong. Listen, I want the truth to come out. You're speaking for 90 million Iranians, when at least 30% support the Iranian control, according to your own polls. I didn't see 30% support. Please feel free to send it. Real Iranians, I love you, Alex, but you're coming off as aggravated and annoyed. G. Wilson, my intent was, if I came off as aggravated and annoyed, it's wrong of me. I shouldn't have come off as aggravated. I am aggravated and annoyed. Can I come up, please? Sure. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry if there is an echo sound.
No problem.
I hope that
What's
the
going
voice
on?
is okay.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
So here is okay, perfect. So here is one thing about the Mossadegh. I'm gonna tell you the one version that you probably never heard of.
Sure.
So here's the thing. Before Pahlavi, we had Qajar dynasty. So they had the king were so much in debt to UK, so they had to sign an agreement with UK. Okay, I'm in debt with you. You are going to take out my oil. So the UK had that agreement with Qajar dynasty. However, after Pahlavi came to the power, that agreement was still going on. Here is the thing. Shah had a speech, and he was like, in one speech, he was like, the UK, it's extracting too much oil, and based on agreement, they are not doing the maintenance. So UK, based on agreement that they had with Qajar dynasty, they supposed to do the maintenance, and that cost millions of dollars. And let me tell you something. That speech was around, I forgot the year, but it was almost the end of agreement. They supposed to do that maintenance. So what they did, they brought the guy Mossadegh. So Mossadegh was a high-ranking Freemason, the UK guy. So they brought Mossadegh. He was like, oh, we want to nationalize the oil, blah blah blah. Then they canceled. So the plan was to cancel that agreement so the UK can skip the maintenance and reestablish the agreement again without the maintenance. That was the whole plan, but Shah, you know the rest of the story. Then Shah
No, you know what?
Mossadegh.
Could you give me a simplified version, just for so everyone else could hear?
A simple version of
Yeah. So keep going. So Mossadegh gets elected by Parliament. Well, he gets elected into Parliament. Then Parliament elects him as president.
And let me tell you about the elected. When Shah elected Mossadegh as a prime minister, he called him to his office. He came. He said, "You are a prime minister. It's okay. Blah blah blah." Then you know what Mossadegh told him? He said, "I'm not gonna accept the position unless UK say yes. Unless UK say yes." So
Unless the UK says yes.
yes, exactly. So Shah completely was aware that the Mossadegh was working for UK, and he was a very, very high-ranking Freemason. That time we had Faramush Khaneh. I don't know if you know that, but he was a very high-ranking, and also because he was so upset because of the Reza Khan, because Reza Khan took so much land from Mossadegh. So he was very upset from Pahlavi too. So these are the reasons that people think that Mossadegh was a good guy, but no, that's the real version of his story that a lot of people don't know. And
No.
how do I know? And how do I know about this? From a guy, Siavash Avesta. You can search his name.
Okay, so I think you're saying Mossadegh was not a good guy. He had bad intentions. He was working with UK. The only piece that I'm missing, and now at this point, really, Iranians, just because we have 160 people in the room, I think it's important with the last iteration that we had, and again, if people are beating me up, if I was rude, wasn't my intent. Can you please share how Mossadegh got into power and how he lost it?
So after all this plan, he took to the position, the UK canceled the agreement. That year, it was, I think, 1328. I don't know the English version
That's
of the
okay.
year. So that's, sorry, I am in a gym. Someone come, hold on.
We're just getting the good part. No, he wasn't, and he was the freest when Mossadegh, Roaring Lion, 1951 to 1953. We're in that timeline. 1953 was Operation Ajax.
So that time, so he couldn't sell the oil, right? So basically the economic of the country collapsed. So the plan was to nationalize the oil, but step by step, with help of Shah.
Okay.
So Shah kicked out the Mossadegh was a bad guy because he had a good intention. He canceled the oil agreement and he wanted to collapse the Iran economy intentionally, and he helped UK. So there is no argument about it. I mean, literally the economic of the Iran collapsed in 2 years. So if anyone is just defending Mossadegh,
No, really, I want
that
to
person
continue.
is
So,
left.
okay, so, but you're saying that Mossadegh so he was not a good guy. He canceled the contracts because of the maintenance, right? And he wanted to nationalize it. It collapsed Iran's government. You're saying then Shah kicked him out. How did he kick him out? Hello? Really, Iranians, you can't keep us on the hook now. We're like, I'm biting my fingernails done.
Sorry, I think my network is not good.
No, don't lose it. Okay, damn it. Okay, feel free to request if you get better connection. Okay, there we go. We got more details to the story. She was not muted. She muted herself, CJ. Free Iranian, if you're free, please come back up. I'd like to finish the story with you. Otherwise, come back another day. Okay, holy cow. Thank you, Arctic. Thank you for the stuff. I don't even see her online anymore. Anywho. Okay. Boy, we went in the weeds for Mossadegh. We should have a whole live on it at some point. But I don't have enough info for a 40-minute live on Mossadegh. The takeaway, according to the CIA, was that the U.S. did intervene. And so I think that's important to know because I don't think the U.S. intervened that much in 1979 compared to what they did in 53. And so another thing that I think is really important is the deception, and we kind of talked about it, the deception that occurred in 1979 to have the people decide to overthrow the Shah, right? It's not like the message that was being portrayed is the same message that the reality is today. And I think that's a super duper important thing to hear. That's what they want you to think. Oh my God, bro. Kaveh. So you see, I didn't do Mossadegh, we did 79. I wish you and I can talk nicely, Kaveh. I agree with you. I believe U.S. intervened. Okay. Always about oil and money. Gene, it looks like it. If you don't know where you went wrong, you're blind. Okay. So, I never insulted you. You're difficult to communicate with me. Maybe we're not compatible. Look, not everyone is. Okay, it's a long time. Thank you, Kim Mellis. All right, so let's talk about this latest ceasefire because there's been some updates. The first one we kind of already talked about it, that the IRGC has been literally seizing assets. I cannot get over, like that is literally something that is just blowing my mind. They come in your house and then they're quite literally taking your stuff, and I'm making it simple, but they're taking your assets. And supposedly they're doing it to people who have bank accounts in Iran who are offshore too. This is not a good group of people. Now, the peace deal, Trump talked about it at length, and so did Hegseth. Iran, I said the same thing, but Iran had come out today. I have my list. Iran had come out today and said that the strait is open and operating as normal. And General Kane went out today and showed the boats as they were coming in and avoiding the blockade with timestamps and satellite images. So I just think it's really, really interesting. For those of you who just missed, yesterday we had a really thorough discussion on the Basiji forces. And the Basiji forces are so interesting. But I think it's a missing piece of the puzzle that if a revolution is going to happen, when the revolution happens, that it's something that we need to consider more about. And so I won't go into crazy detail about the Basij today, but just to reiterate, they are a voluntary group underneath the IRGC, and they're embedded deeply in the culture and into society. And so think about it like you have a snitch, where if you do something that is not according to the IRGC, not acceptable to the IRGC, whether you're at school or out and about, if you see these Basiji forces, they have the right to escalate to the IRGC, so it means that people are constantly walking on eggshells. So someone came on a week ago and they're like, what oppression do you feel? And I tried to explain, like, it's difficult because you feel like you're being watched and you're one bad word away from maybe not coming back home. And I think the missing piece of that story was, in fact, the Basij forces that are in street clothes. They can do whatever they want to. When I was in Iran last really, the last time I interacted with the Basij forces was in 2017, but they weren't hidden. In 2009, when I was there for the protests for the Green Movement, the Basij forces used to drive around on motorcycles with batons, and it's nothing like what they did now. But they would just hit you, and some of them would take your purse. They'd hit you to just kind of disperse the crowd. These are people in street clothes. So, like, you could be sitting next to a guy, and then all of a sudden he's attacking you. We're in for crazy times. Iranian, you're back. Feel free to come and finish the story. I sent you an invite. How many Basijis do you think there are? Ren, there are so many different reports on it. According to the Iranian government themselves, they're saying it's 20 million. That's the propaganda number. The real estimate is around 3 million regular units, which just means that they're not even units, regular members. And that's just like, hey, I didn't know if someone signed me up, it's fine. 3 million, which is still a huge number. Then there's 600,000, and this is according to Rand, 600,000 that have gone through some training that are supposedly the reserves. They're on backup. And then there's 200,000 active people. Now, there are 54,000 Basij bases. So I was on someone else's live and they're like, yeah, I think there's like, our intel says there's 40,000 Basij forces. There's 54,000 bases, according to them at least. Chief Hussein Salmani, rest in peace. Okay. J-Dom. Good grief. That's a lot, right? And they're volunteered. That's what I think is very important. Now, they get some public perks. We talked about it yesterday. They get some public perks. There was a quota for the public universities. So for those of you who don't know, in Iran, education is very important. And the best of the universities are typically public, and they're actually free if you can get in. The issue is, it's incredibly difficult to get in. So one of the quotas they have is 40%. 40% of those seats in those public universities are supposedly reserved for the Basij forces. So think about this for a second. Let's talk about where we're at today. We're at today, if you want to go to school, then you have to join, I'm simplifying it, if you want to go to school, you have a much better chance of getting into the school of your choice if you join this religious volunteer force. Back with the Shah era in 1964 with the White Revolution, if you did well in school, opposed to having to serve your 2-year military sentence, your 2-year mandatory military, they would let you go out and teach kids in rural areas how to read. Do you see the difference? So one, they reward you. What do you get to do if you're smart and you go to school in Iran and you study hard? What do you get to do? You don't have to go to the military. You get to go help kids learn how to read. Now, it's, if you want to be able to be smart, then you have to go to the military and support the government. Not good for research. Real Iranians, if you're welcome, I invited you. You're welcome to come up. How do we get Iran back to the people having rights and allowing to stop and the people to stop? Nikki, that's a tough question, and I don't want to say I'm losing hope, but I think it's becoming more difficult because when the first strike happened on February 28th, I was really optimistic that these people are going to defect really quickly. I was like, there's no way these people are going to just sustain. They're going to see how bad it is. They are going to value their life. And boy, was I wrong. Hindsight, I'm like, that makes sense. I should have seen that. So I think the Reza Pahlavi has to come into play. And the people realize that if they go back to their existing life, it's going to suck, right? It's for sure going to suck. And we talked about it yesterday, but just in case you weren't here to scratch the surface. The government is very clear. It's very clear to the government that the people don't like them. The government officials in the Basij and the IRGC, they are probably not safe to go walking by themselves. They'll be attacked just because of the massacre that happened in January. So when the people hate the government are going to then hate the people. And because they have so much power, the government has so much power to kind of do whatever they want. We're talking about how they're literally going into people's homes and taking their stuff. They have the ability to make people's lives absolute hell without any repercussions. And so because they're aware of that, the people are going to have to rise up. They rose up in January and a ridiculous amount of unalivings occurred. Pahlavi, the opposition leader, has been very, very clear in that I will tell you when it's time to rise. Right now is not the time. And so I think he still has the ability to call a lot of people to the streets, although I don't know if calling people to the streets. So to answer your question, I'm hoping that there's some diplomacy into it. Although if I'm being transparent, I'm losing a little bit of hope on the Artish side. Ideally, what would happen is Pahlavi diplomatically gets the national military to essentially support him or declare neutrality. He can then come into play in some facet, and then it would turn into a bit of a civil war. And I have no data. I'm just purely going off of my brain with how logic works here. Here's Real Iranians to finish your story. We were waiting for you.
Sorry, yes, I had a bad connection.
No problem. So you were talking about Mossadegh. So Shah kicked Mossadegh out.
Yes, with help of US, right?
With help of US, okay. And then what happened? How did they kick him out? Do you know the story?
So here's the thing. My resource is Siavash Avesta. He's the only one of a few person that knows the true version of history. Because, when the revolution happened back in 1979, we have so much resources from left, from Today, from MEK, and all those people, So they have their own version of history. But if someone truly want to know the exact thing that really happened, we have just a few sources. And Siavash Avesta is one of a few persons that did so much good thing about the history. So I don't remember exactly right now because I watched his video like 6 months ago, but that was the summary of what I know. Okay. Mossadegh was a bad guy. He was Freemason. He was working for UK, and he just wanted to do the benefit for UK. That's why he brought off the nationalization of oil, so just to cancel that agreement, so UK can skip paying lots of money.
So they take Mossadegh. You don't remember the story of how they take Mossadegh out? No problem. How does the Shah come back into play?
So when the Mossadegh collapsed the Iran economy, basically. So that time, we don't know. So here's the thing. A lot of people, like, that happened 1955, I guess. Right. So that version of history, people that time, and even the people that time, they don't know that much what exactly happened, because it was not like today. You know what I mean? So Shah knew what exactly was happening, that Mossadegh was collapsing the economy. So yes, Shah, with help of US, they came to kick out the Mossadegh.
How long was Mossadegh in power? Do you remember?
I think 2 years. No, I mean, after that, canceling that agreement, 2 years, I guess. Before that, I don't know.
No. How long was the Shah out of the country and Mossadegh back in?
How long?
Because Mossadegh wasn't the leader for a long time.
He was for 2 years. I mean, after the oil was after that agreement was cancelled.
No, not about the agreement. Shah, because whatever happened, and I have my details, right? Whatever happened, the Shah fled. He left. The Mossadegh was in control for a very short period of time, and then
It
Shah
was for
came
2
back.
years. No, he was in power for 2 years.
Okay, 2 years. Then the Shah
And that
came back,
in-
right?
Okay, so that 2 years, the economy of Iran collapsed like zero, like nothing. And that's the thing. So he collapsed the country in 2 years. So actually, a lot of people, that time, they saw the real face of Mossadegh. But although some people were so dumb, also half of the people so dumb, however, Shah, his plan was to nationalize the oil with help of US over there. And as you know, by the time before 1979, he was the main power for oil industry. He was in OPEC. So that was his plan. And he was successful, and he made Iran a great country. Not like Mossadegh, duh.
Okay.
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Why are you obsessed with the story of Mossadegh?
Well, I really like it for a couple reasons. One, I think it goes to show with concrete evidence, I believe the CIA. I think it shows that the U.S. has intervened. Okay? And I think it's important for people to understand the history that the intervention that is documented was in 53. Because a lot of times people say, well, the U.S. intervened in 53, then they put the Ayatollahs in 79, and then they're going to change the government now and put someone else in. And I just think it's important to realize that that's not necessarily true. And that I think this time what needs to happen is that the Iranian people need to put their own person in charge and not let anyone else meddle with it. My point is, in 1953, U.S. did intervene, and I think that intervention was part of that left a bad taste in the people's mouth in 79, where they said, you know what, we didn't pick him, U.S. put him in, we want our own person, and our own person kind of gave them.
No, that's not the. I'm sorry that I cut you off.
That's my opinion.
Sorry that I cut you off, but back in 1979, we know that Khomeini brought to country by a lot of people, so by France, by UK, and when we say USA, we have to be in details, like what part of USA we are talking about. So that time, here is what exactly happened. This is actually another version of a story about 1979. So that time, a lot of companies, a lot of European countries and American companies were so much in debt to Shah of Iran. In order for them, exactly like 1953, in order for them to escape that paying Shah, that was the whole plan. And
What was the whole plan?
Rothschild
To get the
family,
Shah out?
yes, to get the Shah out. And as of I'm talking right now, UK is still owe so much money to the Iran. And I know that I forgot the name of a company. It's just like an island, I think. They hold the money because they are still owe to Iran. A lot of them. And you know, if Shah come back, again, his son, so they have to pay all those money. So that was the entire plan. I mean, everyone with a little knowledge, they know that the Khomeini, you think Khomeini could come without the help of France, UK, and part of USA. So it's very important that when we talk about USA, what part of USA exactly? Like, let's say Trump, it's from United States, but it's not like same as Democrats. You know what I mean?
Sure,
So Jimmy Carter at that time, he worked for the groups behind the scene, like Rothschild families. Those people were in debt to Shah that time. So yeah, go ahead and search Siavash Avesta.
I sure will. And really, Ryan, what I'd like to do. Yeah, what I'd like to do, but I got about 5 more minutes left in me, but what I'd like to do is maybe we could have a whole live on this topic of 79. Because I've heard a lot of what you're saying regarding 79, although after my research, I've not been able to find any documented sources on it. And I'm not challenging you. This isn't the first time, and my father's story is very similar to what you said. However, when I tried to independently research it, I had a lot of hard time. So if you wouldn't mind, I would love to have a long session on this, but could you send me some information on it so that I could read up on it and be more educated from your info?
Yes, I can send.
Okay.
I'm gonna send for you Siavash Avesta.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming up.
Yeah, he speaks in Farsi. Are you okay,
That's okay.
with that?
Yeah, I can understand. Yeah. Okay, really, Iranians, thanks a lot. Send that and we'll have a whole day on this. We'll communicate and we'll publicize that. Thank you for coming up, though. Enjoy your gym workout. Vista, now you're paused. Hey, welcome.
Hi, thanks. Just wanted to ask these people in the comments that why do they think we Iranians in diaspora are claiming something different from people inside the country?
Oh,
Because the internet has been cut off.
Vista, can you tell me what we're talking about? I've not been doing a good job of reading comments.
The people in the comments are claiming that we Iranians in diaspora are completely claiming something different with people inside the country. So I just wanted to ask them, so why the hell is internet still shut down? Why?
It's
Why
obvious
can't
because
people speak?
no, I could answer that. It's shut down because if the Iranian people have internet, then the Jewish people, the Israelis, are going to know where they're at and they're going to attack them. So it's for their own public safety that the internet's off.
Yeah, so why won't we just let Iranian people speak for themselves?
I 100% agree.
Wait a minute. These people will call all of Iranians like Mossad agents at that time. So we are a population of 19 million Iranians.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are
100%.
almost.
But I have not
Mossad
gotten payment
should
yet.
be
Have you?
really concerned about their fundings because it's hard to pay 19 million people each month.
Yeah, I've not gotten paid last month. Have you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was late. Yeah, they are not doing a good job this month.
No. But I'll tell you what, when I get my next month check, I'll send it to you, okay?
Thank you.
All right,
You know,
Krista.
I'm short. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks a bunch.
And also about Mossadegh, our story is a bit different with what people know. So it was a coup. Yeah, that was a coup. But you know, like the higher ups won't do a coup. The coup starts from the lower ranks. So it was Mossadegh who was trying to do a coup, and Shah actually stopped it. So that's our version of the story, and we really don't like that guy.
Fair. I appreciate it, Vista. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you for
the festival. I think we heard 4 different Mossadegh stories, which is fine, right? It's hard to go back in history from 75 years ago. It's not like there was the New York Times posting stuff on the internet in explicit detail where you can then go back in footage. In fact, what I'm going to go on a quick 30-second tangent, I think that 200 years from now, people are going to have such a hard time understanding what history is happening now because of how many fake videos and whatnot there are. So unless they have technology, which presumably they will, to differentiate an AI video from today till then, boy, we're going to be in for an interesting time. We're going to be in for a very interesting time. Any Iranian who supports bombing of his own country in the U.S. is an Israeli traitor. Okay. Okay. Let's see what Nick wants.
Hey Alex, how's it going?
Hi, Nico.
I've been learning a lot from you these last, I think, week I've been following.
Thanks.
So it's been really nice. But I am still kind of like I've heard you kind of explain the complexity and the history, which I think is very important. But I'm still a little bit unsure. It sounds like maybe you're pro this entire, I don't even know what to call this, whether it's a war or an operation, but I just feel like for me, I don't see a clear road for success, right? Like I think winning would be this very ugly, very tragic kind of thing, and just the school bombing, like that opening move was devastating. I thought
TikTok friendly. I'm gonna get a flag.
Sorry.
Look, everything you're saying is fair. I think it's very fair. So your question was, do I support it?
No, I mean, I just don't know. Like, for me, it's like, okay, well, the complexity of it is so it's so complex and tragic. I feel like that it's like I resist the support of it, even though every Iranian I know from the diaspora, at least in the U.S., is supportive of this. At least the first reaction is very supportive, right? And then comes this realization where it's like, yeah, but this isn't really going to result. This isn't as clean as we think it is, and so I feel like naturally I don't support it, but I'm kind of curious because you seem pretty neutral for the most part. Maybe even I would say sometimes it sounds like you're biased towards like this is a good thing, but I'm curious like when you extrapolate this to how it's going to play out entirely.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know
I just
how.
want to make sure I'm understanding your question because is the question what are my thoughts on this?
Yeah, like how do you see this playing out, and why?
Yeah.
Why are you? It feels like supportive, even though that may not be the case.
Fair. So Nico, every week I come up, and given the current events, how it plays out is changing. The first time I came up, and shortly after they got hit, I was like, they're going to be in 4 or 5 weeks. Iran's going to be free. The IRGC is going to flee, and clearly that wasn't the case. Right. Then it started changing. Well, the IRGC is going to get weakened and then they're going to, maybe it'll take a month, right? Maybe it'll take 2 months. And I think what has been abundantly clear is that these guys are not going down and they're not giving up control peacefully. So that's the first thing. Where do I think this is going to go? I think this is unfortunately going to get dragged out a little. And I think it is going to convert itself into somewhat of a civil war. The people, when you have that many people who get injured by the government, they're not going to forgive them. The president of Iran, Pezeshkian, said something beautiful along the lines of when the people get attacked during the time of war, they group together and they don't forget those who did that. And he's absolutely right. My challenge, though, is that war started when the government attacked their own people in early January, not when the U.S. and Israel attacked the ones who attacked them, if that makes sense. So where do I think this is going to play out? I think it's unfortunately going to get a little ugly, and I think it's going to lead itself into somewhat of a civil war. I really hope I'm wrong. I just don't foresee. I do see this ceasefire leading to a potential peace agreement, but I don't think that means the Iranian people are going to just go back to their house quietly and move on. I think there's going to be somewhat of an uprising in some way, shape, or form. I don't know when. And then regarding my supportive of it, I am not supporting. I don't think war is good, period. I don't think civilian casualty is good, period. I don't think kids getting involved is good, period. But I do appreciate the weakening of the IRGC. The Iranian people have been attempting to weaken the IRGC for 47 years. 47 years they've been trying, and they have nothing but sticks and stones. So when Big Bad Boss comes out and he starts attacking, I think there is good to it, right? And then the other thing, Nico, I think that if I come off as neutral, it's because I understand that this is not pretty. And the Iranian people arguably had it, well, not arguably, for sure the Iranian people were in better day-to-day lives pre this incident than before it. However, if you look at how the history of this regime is, it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse with time, right? The latest reports of how many unalivings just happened in January. So I don't think something needed to happen in some way, shape, or form. Something needed to change, and there is going to be a cost to it. And I think the Iranian people are going to just have to, what choice do they have at this point? They're going to have to attempt to uprise. Otherwise, they're going to go back to this crazy government. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. There's someone in the chat. Her name is Kobe. She's really knowledgeable over
I
some stuff.
spoke with Kobe before. Kobe and I had a discussion. I had told her that I would research on Libya. I did a little bit of researching on it. Out of respect for Kobe, though, and Kobe, I see you're on here. Thank you for coming. But on respect for Kobe, I cannot bring you up. There was something sent to me by something that you said and did, and I will not associate myself with you. But other than that, Nico, I appreciate you coming up.
Yeah, well, thank you for your time.
For sure, man. Thanks. Kobe, I'll message you. There's no need for public anything, but I unfortunately am not going to bring you up. Okay, so my friends, it is 12:05. Here's what I think. You know what? For the 100 some of you, bear with me for a second. I think that Mossadegh thing. Let me pull up I have a whole folder on this stuff. So let me cite my sources for my buddy, but not to bore you guys. I just think it's interesting that different sources are going to say different stuff, and so you know who would know? My grandfather. But you know who I can't talk to because of the internet blackout? My grandfather. Thank you. And he's like 90 something. Anywho. You actually think there's going to be a war of the people? Lewis, I think it's going to get ugly. Try to think outside the box. CIA has been known to be corrupt. I don't doubt that. Kobe, I don't want to publicly say anything. I'm telling you, message me. What was sent to me was not nice, and I don't want to public shame you. Play the victim like a good Zionist. Okay, let me attempt to. Oh, my life is so bad. I hope I did a good job. Okay. You actually think there's gonna be a war? Really good work. Oof. How long do you think it will take for the blockade to work? Oh, really? That's a good question. Here's what's interesting. I don't know. They can't survive that long, right? They're literally crippled. That nothing can come in, nothing come out, and that the people are going to really, really suffer. For those of you who don't know, Iran, yes, they produce a lot of oil. They actually consume more gasoline than they produce. They're 2 million gallons a month short. So they import that stuff. So there's going to be a gas crisis, although people aren't driving as much, right? But there's inevitably going to be a gas crisis. There's already a food crisis. Food prices were 10x last I checked. On top of that, medicine like insulin is incredibly difficult to get. So they're in a really, really tough spot. So how long is it going to take? I don't know. I think we're in for a very interesting next couple of weeks. Wait till gas is $8 in the U.S. Could be. Although, Bill, here's some silver lighting. I think if and when Iran becomes a non-Islamic republic, and sells the oil to the U.S., logically speaking, it'll make stuff cheaper, right? Like if that oil could be sold everywhere, because I think China's getting a discount at around 10%. So if you flood that, China's gonna have to pay more for gas. Supply demand, I think it will reduce gas prices overall. All right, I'm gonna bring on one more. Let's see what MC says. Hi, MC.
Hey, Alex. Hey, I'm good. How are you, man?
I can't complain.
So the reason I wanted to come up is to say that first, I love what you're doing. I'm learning really a lot. I'm not an Iranian, but I've been following this conflict, and simply from economic perspective, you're saying that probably there might be an option for a civil war. I think that's not really a realistic option, simply because if you think about it, every civil war around the globe has to be funded. You need to have ammo, you need to have guns, you need to have food for the soldiers and stuff like that. So who's going to fund this stuff in Iran? I especially now, what I'm hearing is they're putting like some financial blockade. I think this war is going to be over very soon, especially when the RGC stop getting paid. So because I'm sure right now they're getting paid in US dollars. I doubt that they're accepting payment in Iranian currency. So that's my view. I don't know.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying, and it makes sense. The issue is that there's multiple ways that we can get into a civil war. First way, right, is if the Artish, like they have in 53 and 79, stepped foot, the national military, if they step foot, well, they're well armed, right? So that's option one. On top of that, U.S. had already admitted to dropping some weapons. And secondly, I think Israel is very, very vested into getting a true regime change. So I think there's three potential options that can solve the arming the people in some way, shape, or form. I don't think that you need full-time soldiers to collect money and stipends to go. But I agree to some extent they need to be armed. So that's
No,
fair.
I was saying about the other side, the RGC side. Who's going to fund those guys?
Well, right now the oil is what's funding them. If that stops and bleeds,
Right, but they stopped them, right?
Yeah.
They stopped the oil. They stopped now. They're stopping the financial backing with banks and stuff. They look where the money is coming from. I mean, I don't think there'll be enough funds to have a civil war. I believe that. I mean, I could be wrong. We'll see, right? But I believe that this whole thing will end in about 2-3 weeks.
and how do you think it will end?
I mean, that's the thing. I thought that when Trump said, I want the Iranian people to step up and stuff, he was hoping for some kind of opposition organization. I don't believe, because of the terror and because of all the people being killed, there is such strong organization. But I'm sure there are people right now as we speak who are working on it.
So, but how does it end? Does the IRG stay? IRG?
No. RGC will go away.
I hope
and
you're right.
And I believe some opposition within the next 2-3 weeks will show up. Probably some new party or something like that.
MC, I hope to God you're right. I don't even. I'm not here to debate. I hope.
I know, and I'm on your side. I totally agree with almost 99% of the stuff that you're saying. And we'll see. I mean, I'll follow it with you, and I'll follow you here, and we'll see what's gonna happen, man.
MC,
but great
I
job,
really
man.
hope you're right.
I hope so too. I'm gonna get down now.
Thanks a bunch for your time. Have a great night, okay?
Thanks, you too.
I'm not gonna argue that. I'm not gonna argue that at all. Invite Alex Shaw. I'd like to hear it. Nick Fredo. Hi, Nick. I'm not sure what we're talking about. Anywho, my friends, it's 12 o'clock. I feel... Okay, quick update from within the family. They now have unlimited VPN. So, like, as of today, there is now unlimited VPN, which I can't process on why, but it's there. It's like $18 a month. Before, they were paying $36.50 per gig. So that's a huge update. Food, super more scarce. Like, it's really hard. They are legit scared about food. They're legit scared about medicine too. Getting medicine is extremely difficult because once something's off the shelf, it can be off if it's imported. Iran is relatively self-sufficient. So from a lot of things, I don't know what percent, X% of things they are able to produce in-house and get. From my understanding, all of the targets that were hit on purpose, maybe some to however many unintentional hits, a vast majority of the attacks that were hit on infrastructure, such as steel plants or whatever, was owned by the IRGC and was used as a source of revenue. And so the logic, because a steel plant got hit, one of our family members lost their job. They used to work there. And the steel place that got hit was owned by the IRGC. And although they had nothing to do with manufacturing of boom booms, what they did do was make profit, and that profit was used for IRGC. So a lot of infrastructure that is not directly correlated with the manufacturing of WMDs were in fact hit. So, I'm trying to think, is there any other noteworthy update? No. I think that's that. Okay. Anything else? Any last minute things? So let's give some of these guys hard money. I don't know if giving them hard money is good. Loans. Hard money loans. Nick, I like your thinking. Okay. Moderator muted Rick. It was a long night for Rick to be here. And make him pay it back later with interest, right? What's the purpose of hitting those factories then? Creel, that's a fair question. Hitting the factories, it goes back to the same thing that we said 2 months ago. Hitting the factories tells me that this is going to be a long-term play. If you're banking on the profitability of the steel plant that's owned by the IRGC to help fund an outside T group, it tells me that we're not going to be here for 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, right? Like, how long does it take for a steel plant to churn profit? Probably not 24 hours, right? So it's a long-term play, which tells me that I think this is unfortunately going to be a long-term interference. I don't know. Is there any way that you know how to make money? Yes. Many tea groups. From having family there? No. If anything, Nick, I have the opposite issue. I don't want to make money from my family there. I'd like to figure out how to give my family their money. Right? But without internet, things are so tough. Can you name the tea groups? Yes, there's two that starts with, I'll message you. I can't tell if you're trying to get me blocked. If you are, there's a chance. Think of Lebanon. Think of Yemen. Think of Palestine. Those are all paper funded by the IRGC. If you think by hitting Iran will lead to regime change, you know nothing. Thanks. What country do you think is holding stuff for Iran? Probably Russia. For sure, Russia. I wouldn't be shocked if China was. But China, I think, is interesting because China has to remain somewhat neutral. They don't want to piss off the current regime because if they stay in power, they don't want to lose that opportunity to get gas at a 10% discount, right? And at the same time, they don't want to piss off the U.S. because if the U.S. does end up forcing a regime change to how Trump wants, then they yet again don't want to lose, they don't want to have a bad relationship with them. So I think China's best play is to remain relatively neutral, but I'm not a global politician. So there's my thing. Okay. The regime is pretty big, Nick. There's 150 to 200,000 IRGC members. Those are the Revolutionary Guards whose job is to protect the regime. On top of that, I think it's worth mentioning every time that there's another 200,000-ish Basij members, which are voluntary IRGC members who are literally just oppressing the people and following orders of the IRGC. Volunteer ones. So it's not small. Oh my gosh. Rick is up again. All right. Rick is up again. My friends, should we let Rick up? Type yes or no. Part of me is like, I don't care. I'm going to go to bed. Let's just get yelled at and let him have us leave us alone. Did you have that special speaker come and talk? Which one, Helen? We had an incredible one of a young girl. I posted the video of it. If you're talking about the Strait of Hormuz guy, no, not this guy. Pamela's saying no. Senior lady saying no. Tammy's saying no. Okay. All right, then I'm going to call it to bed. I'm going to appreciate you guys. Noah, you can ask one question. What is it? Yeah, I was talking about that guy. Thank you. Okay. Ask your question, Noah, then I'm going to bed, my friend. Okay. Thank you guys for the likes. Save your fingers, though. As soon as Noah answers this question, I don't want to get yelled at anymore. As soon as Noah asks. Noah, man, it's been like 5 minutes. Type your question. Thank you, Messi, for watching. Noah, bro, tight. Good night. Thank you for your info. Good night, Joyce. Pamela, good night. JD, have a good night. Have a good night. You too, JD. Has there ever been a regime change? Trump said yes. The regime change is okay. Semantics. Good night. Good night. Good night, my friends. Good night, everyone. Good night, Ed. Good night, Helen. Good night, Mark. Has there been a regime change? The people of the regime who are in leadership are gone and new ones are there, but they're following the same rules. Dude, Gruden, can I patch you in? I'm getting ready to sign off. Give me a follow. I come on all the time. Although I think I need a break. Today was just flipping draining, and I don't know why. Yes, we'll absolutely, dude, I'll patch you in on everything. Good night, everyone. Anyways, I pray for your family. Thank you, dude. All right. Shabbat Fanos. Good night, everyone. Oh, Noah! Did Iran mean to try to hit Turkey? No, I think they meant to hit the 13 countries that they hit. They didn't just try to hit Turkey. I think they did it on purpose. They hit whoever they could. And on that end, Noah, I hope you come back and ask more questions. And do me a favor. Could you guys do me one favor? There's 110 of you. These are my true friends here. Aside from Rick. Rick, you're not my friend. You're my best friend. Rick, you are my best friend. Did you think I hurt your feelings? I did it. You're my best friend. I'm just never going to talk to you again. Chet didn't let me. Thanks, Noah. Can you give me topics that we could talk about? Just because, listen, it takes me like an hour to research a new topic. And they're kind of like, eh. So please, if you have any ideas on anything we could talk about, let me know. Pamela, my wife said I can't go on the UFC talking. She said I can't do one on UFC, and she said I can't do one on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Those are things that I could talk about forever. Sandra, the Green Movement, I was there. So that's part of the stories that we always talk about, but we can bring that up another night. The relationship between Iran and Iraq. That's interesting. We've had an Iran and Iraq discussion, Tammy. We could have another one. But send me DMs of ideas. No, that's what I'm saying. Pamela, my wife won't let me. All right. Good night, everyone. Peace and love.
A big screen you can. You guys can connect controllers, play all the games together. Yeah, guys. So it's a lot of fun. Try it out. You get it here on a $30 discount. You're getting 20,000 games for $20. No Wi-Fi needed. No subscriptions or fees. You don't have to set up anything, pay for any of the games. They're all free, preloaded on there, ready to go out of the box. You just turn it on, you start playing. All your classic games from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Games like Super Mario Brothers, Dr. Mario, Mario Kart, Pokemon, GTA, Pac-Man, Tetris, Sonic, Galaga, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Need for Speed, NBA Jam, NBA Live, Madden, FIFA, Double Dragon, Contra, Paperboy, Crash Bandicoot, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Castlevania, X-Men, Final Fantasy, Def Jam, Metal Gear Solid, Metal Slug, Dragon Ball, Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Simpsons, The Sims. All of your classics are on here. This thing is stacked with games. Yeah, Kabam Bam. So yeah, those were some of the games. There's no like other lists anywhere. Those are some of the games. This thing is stacked. It's got it all the games from your childhood. All right. I've never heard of that game, Sergio, to be honest. I've never heard of that game. Bad Dudes versus Dragon Ninja. I've never heard of that, to be honest. It could possibly be on here, but if it's not, you could always just download it